That night the city lights burned bright, almost as if they were trying to chase away the darkness that slithered between the towering buildings. But not every shadow could be banished. Some corners remained untouched by the neon glow, like the alley where forgotten lives clung to a different kind of rhythm. Here, two worlds coexisted, never truly meeting. One slept peacefully in the comfort of illusion, while the other, filled with the lost and the overlooked, slowly began to stir. In the midst of drunken laughter and shouting merchants, a boy stood still. His hair, pale as moonlight, caught the dim flicker of the street lanterns. His name was Vlad. Before him, hanging on the wall of a soot-stained blacksmith shop, was a slender sword, its blade glowing faintly, as if it held a light of its own. It wasn't just a metallic glimmer, it was a flame that bypassed the eyes and struck directly at the soul. Vlad could feel it, a pull, a whisper, something ancient and alive calling from within the blade, breathing life into the embers inside him. Light footsteps approach, carrying the scent of cheap soap and dust. A girl with fiery red hair stood beside him, her wrinkled palms raised, skin worn from too much time in water. "Look at these hands," she said, half joking, half weary. Her voice was laced with playful sadness. She complained about her fading beauty, about hard labor under Madame and Jorge, and about how she deserved more, better. But Vlad didn't respond with sympathy. He frowned, brushed her hands away, muttered that she was annoying. All he wanted was one moment of silence from the world's noise. She wasn't offended, not anymore. She was used to Vlad's coldness. Still, she knew something had changed in him since the day he was struck by lightning. Not ordinary lightning, black lightning, rare, earth-shaking, soul-burning. Since then, he'd been different, sometimes talking to himself while holding a stick or a kitchen knife, sometimes crying in silence, sometimes laughing in his sleep. Rumors spread like fire in the alleys. Fear crept into whispered conversations. She knew, and in a hushed tone, she warned him. The new bishop, the former inquisitor of heresies, had no tolerance for the unnatural. Vlad said nothing. His gaze remained fixed on the sword, as if speaking silently to something only he could see. Then the girl broke his trance with a single sentence. "That sword. It costs 5 gold coins." Silence fell. 5 gold coins. An impossible amount for those living in this alley. Enough to change a life, or enough to get you killed if the wrong ears heard you had it. The girl, normally bold and spirited, suddenly looked fragile. Her eyes closed, imagining a life she'd never get to live. Vlad didn't move. He didn't want the sword. He remembered it, as if it had once belonged to him in another lifetime. In front of the blacksmith's shop, Zemina and Vlad stood, blocking the entrance. The shop owner, an old man, came out angrily. "What are you doing in front of my shop? You're blocking the customers," he shouted. Zemina, with an indifferent attitude, replied, "We're just browsing." The argument heated up when Zemina noticed the sword on display. 5 gold is too much for this old iron." The blacksmith was immediately offended. "Old iron? This is my masterpiece," he said angrily. 5 gold is not an outrageous price." Zemina laughed mockingly. "If this is a masterpiece, why is it hanging in a back alley? No one wants to buy it." The blacksmith grew even more furious. "You have no idea what you're talking about. This is more than just iron." Vlad, feeling the tension rise, pulled Zemina away. "Enough, Zemina. Let's go." Zemina tried to resist. "Wait, I'm not done." But Vlad had already dragged her away. The blacksmith stood, angry and hurt. "Don't come back," he shouted. He remembered them. 3 children who once hid behind his forge, who he fed with stale bread and warm water. Children who laughed even as death stalked every corner of the slums. One of them was Yamina, the girl who once cried herself to sleep from hunger, and the boy staring at the sword. The blacksmith recognized him. Those eyes hadn't changed, still carrying that same spark, the one he himself once carried. They'll never know how hard it is to dream in a place like this, he thought, his hands polishing the blade as if trying to erase every past failure etched into its steel. Asterisk. The blade now shone like a fallen star, piercing the darkness and striking the hearts of those brave enough to still believe. He hung the sword higher this time above the rusted nails and the dust of forgotten days. At the end of the alley, Vlad paused. Yamina followed his gaze. Just a fleeting moment their eyes gleamed as they once did when they were young, filled with wonder, with dreams. At the windy northern tip stood the city of Shore, the crown jewel of the Bayzid family. A glittering city, shining bright like a beacon in the dark night. But like all lights, it too cast shadows, and those shadows cloaked the city's deepest corners. Behind the bustle of the harbor, beneath the towering clock tower, lay a filthy maze known only in whispers, the Shore slums. There the stench mingled with sweat, blood, and despair. This was where the forsaken gathered, a place spoken of with disgust, yet secretly relied upon by those in power. That night, as usual, peace was absent from the Rose's Smiland, and that offered more than just a bed. A scream shattered the darkness. A brown-haired woman was being dragged roughly down the second-floor corridor. Her hair was yanked, her body beaten, and her skin humiliated before indifferent laughter. A drunk customer, a former mercenary, accused her not of selling her body, but lies. From the shadows of the stairs, a young man stood, expressionless as he watched Vlad. Calmly, he picked up a candle from a table and made his way upstairs, as if the candle mattered more than the commotion. He didn't shout, didn't ask much. His voice was cold, nearly inaudible. He set down a tray and lazily asked the man, "What's the problem?" The candle, a 7-minute rose candle that burned out too quickly. Proof, the man said, that he'd been cheated. Vlad examined the candle with blank eyes, then pulled a new one from its box. Quietly, he challenged the mercenary. If the candle indeed burned too quickly, the man could choose the woman's fate. But if not, ... Vlad's gaze pierced the soul. The man, who had been shouting, now only nodded stiffly, swallowed by the icy blue of Vlad's eyes. The candle was lit. ... Time passed. Seconds turned into minutes. 3 ... for ... 6 ... And when the 7th minute arrived, the silence shattered. Bam! A baton slammed into the man's head. Blood spurted, and his body collapsed, his grip on the woman released. Screams echoed as Vlad grabbed his collar and dragged him back into the room. The door locked. Only the sounds of fists, screams, and long-held vengeance remained. Vlad was no hero, nor was he a monster. He was the guardian of the city's fake smiles. And that night he chose not to let that smile be tainted by deceit. As the guests returned to their revelry, and the music rose to drown out all else, Vlad let his anger boil over. "Why is everyone talking about my mother today?" he muttered between blows. "You think I live for revenge because she left me?" The man's cries faded into the chaos of the party, and as always ... life in Shore went on. Morning came. Light slipped through the tall windows of roses, and the grandeur from the night before still lingered, as if there had been no violence, blood, or suffering behind its walls. Vlad, now on the 4th floor, reported to Jorge, a massive figure with a stomach as constant as his breakfasts. "The candle didn't last 7 minutes," he said coldly. Jorge, as usual, looked unfazed. He ate his sausages and blood putting without emotion, without pausing his bites, the candles. In our food, Vlad added slowly a warning, a statement that a traitor was among them. A black-haired woman smirked as she served breakfast. Their voices overlapped, but none carried warmth. This was a world where trust could be tricked like rose candles that burned too fast. "What should I look for?" Vlad asked, as if he didn't already know. "Honestly," the woman Marcella said calmly, "I already found it." Marcella, a woman in her mid-30s, smiled as if the world had never tasted suffering. That smile, like a rose petal kissed by morning dew, sweet, fresh, yet hiding unseen thorns. She ranked fifth on Shora's beauty list, though many agreed even that number felt unfair. Her face glowed with seduction that could instantly shift to innocence, like a girl untouched by the world. Yet from those blooming red lips came bitter truth. "It's me. I messed with the candles. I wanted to suck honey easily from drunk men," she said without a hint of guilt, as if sin was nothing worth mourning. And there stood Vlad, descending the stairs of Rosa's smiles with heavy, hesitant steps. Guilt never touched his heart, he knew. In Shora's back alleys, morality was a luxury no one could afford. But still he wished to be a little human, a little better than the beast they thought he was. A loud yet cheerful voice broke the tension in his steps. "Hey, my proud junior." Burley's shot came with the smell of stale alcohol and cheap ambition. Vlad replied flatly, "Don't touch me, I'm tired today." But Burley wasn't the type to back off over a sentence. He kept talking about yesterday, about the money needed, about the candles that sold well. "We're not bastards who extort juniors," he said, slinging his arm over Vlad's shoulder. "This is business. You give, we repay. That's fair, right?" With a nod, Burley signaled. Other members of George's family stepped aside, opening the path to Rosa Smiles' basement. A damp, foul place far from beautiful but crucial. That's where they stored alcohol, food, and secrets. Amid the scent of fermentation and rotting wood, a figure squirmed. A dark-skinned boy, empty-eyed, blood trickling down his forehead, still alive, but barely. Burley chuckled. He was picking pockets, but he's dumb, untrained. Caught like a baby chick, Vlad didn't respond. He simply stepped closer, inspecting the wounds with his sharp eyes. "Did you cut off his fingers?" he asked emotionlessly. "No." Burley chuckled. "His ankle?" Also no. Burley enjoyed the game. He knew Vlad would pay, and he was right. Vlad sighed, pulling 40 silver coins from his pocket. "Next time, don't call me," Vlad said coldly. "Just kill him." Laughter echoed, rough and mocking. They knew Vlad would never do it. He was too stubborn and too human. "Get up before I kill you," Vlad muttered, lightly kicking the boy's body. The child grimaced, stirred, and with what strength remained stood up. "Ha ha. Sorry, Vlad, I was trying to avoid moderation," he said, half tired, half ashamed. Vlad didn't reply. He just rubbed his face, hiding his frustration. 5 gold coins slipping farther away. He remembered the names, the 5 rulers of Shore's underworld. The whore knight, Jorge, the money louse, Jack. The pig butcher, Black Bear, the gambling dice, and the whale hunter, Captain Hoover. Vlad then went to meet someone. Harvin, once a friend, now just a shadow from the past. Harvin sat stiffly with a limp leg and 2 missing fingers. Wounds earned from the hatred of a bishop back in the dark days of a failed pickpocketing. "And Vlad asked for 5 gold. Harvin only gave a dry laugh. "The first thing you say after all this time is, 'Give me money.' I have no choice. You have no credibility." Vlad knew Harvin was right, but time didn't wait for mercy, not in Shora. "We had good times once. didn't we?" Vlad asked, almost a whisper. "Yeah, but this bishop, he's more into blood than forgiveness." And Harvin's tragedy was an unforgettable reminder. His screams once echoed in the back alleys, but no one came. Shora only watched, as always. As Vlad was selling candles, searching for leftover gold from the remnants of hope, a towering figure loomed above him, a strange shadow, tall, broad, with a left hand replaced by a hook. His voice was deep and piercing. "Hey, kid, where's your boss?" Vlad, who recognized the voice, could barely breathe. He swallowed hard. There was no choice but to lie. "I'm just a candle seller. I don't know anything." And in the shadows of a city called Shora, a small lie could save a life or summon a darker curse.